Let's be honest for a moment. Most of us think we're doing passwords the right way. We add a capital letter. We throw in a number. We tack on a symbol at the end. And then, 2 weeks later, we forget it and reset the password anyway. It feels secure. It feels responsible. It feels like we're following the rules. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Those password rules you've been following for years. They're not protecting you the way you think they are. In fact, in many cases, they're actively making things worse. Today, we're going to break down why traditional password rules fail, how attackers actually exploit them in the real world, and what modern cybersecurity teams do instead to protect real systems, not just look secure on paper. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why so many breaches still start with just a password, even in companies that think they're locked down.
Breach Bites TV.
To understand why password rules fail today, we need to talk about where they came from. Most password policies were designed decades ago. Back when computers were expensive, networks were small, and attackers didn't have the tools they have now. At the time, the logic made sense. Longer passwords are harder to guess. Complex passwords look random. If users change them often, attackers lose access. Or organizations created rules like minimum 8 characters, at least one uppercase letter, at least one number, at least one special character, and change every 60 or 90 days. On paper, this looked solid. But what those rules completely ignored was human behavior. Here's the problem. Humans are very good at patterns and very bad at randomness. When you force people to create complex passwords that they have to remember, they don't become more secure. They become more predictable. People don't create truly random passwords. They create passwords that look random. They capitalize the first letter, add a number at the end. They add an exclamation point because it's easy to reach. Password 1. Welcome 2224. Summer 2223. Attackers know this. In fact, attackers rely on this behavior. Modern password attacks don't guess randomly, they guess strategically. Let's clear up a myth. Attackers are not sitting in dark rooms manually guessing your password one character at a time. That's not how this works. Today's attacks are automated, optimized, and terrifyingly efficient. Attackers use massive password lists compiled from previous breaches. Billions of real passwords, taken from real users across real companies. They don't guess passwords. They test combinations they already know humans reuse. They try common words, common substitutions, predictable patterns, and known password variations. And here's the kicker. They don't even need your password. If you reused a password anywhere else, even on a completely unrelated site, that password is now part of their arsenal. This is where everything falls apart. Most people reuse passwords, not because they're careless. It's because they're human. Someone might have one important password, one work password, and one throwaway password. And this is where most security advice quietly falls apart. People don't break these rules because they don't understand them. They break them because following them adds friction to everything they do. Every extra step feels small, but over time, those small steps stack up until convenience wins. But attackers don't care how you categorize them. If one site gets breached, even a small one, attackers take those credentials and try them everywhere else. Email, cloud services, corporate VPNs, internal portals. This technique is called credential stuffing, and it works frighteningly well. No malware, no hacking movie theatrics, just logging in. Now let's talk about forced password rotation. The idea sounds good. If attackers steal a password, we'll invalidate it quickly. But here's what actually happens. Users don't create new passwords every 90 days. They create variations. Password spring becomes password summer. Company 2023 becomes company 2224. Attackers know this too. They don't just try one password. They try patterns. So instead of increasing security, forced rotations often just expand the attack surface. You now have old passwords, new passwords, slight variations of both, and all of them exist somewhere in a breach database. Here's the brutal truth. Password complexity rules were designed to stop humans from guessing passwords, but humans aren't the threat. Computers are. Attack tools don't care if your password has uppercase letters, symbols, or numbers. They can test millions of combinations per second. What actually slows them down isn't complexity, it's length and uniqueness. A long, unique passphrase that's never been reused is exponentially harder to crack than a short, complex password. And yet many systems still enforce rules that push users towards short, complex, reusable passwords. People don't reuse passwords because they don't know better. They do it because remembering dozens of unique passwords is exhausting. Every account asks for something slightly different. Longer passwords, special characters, new rules. Over time, security stops feeling protective and starts feeling like friction. This is where modern security thinking comes in. The goal is no longer make passwords complicated. The goal is make them long, make them unique. Reduce how often humans have to interact with them, and add layers that don't rely on memory. Let's break that down. A passphrase is a sequence of words, not random characters. Words. Something like correct horse battery staple. It's long. It's easy to remember. And it's incredibly resistant to brute force attacks. Length matters more than complexity. 4 or 5 random words are far stronger than an 8-character password with symbols. Here's the reality. No human can safely manage dozens of unique passwords, so stop trying. Password managers exist for a reason. They generate strong, unique passwords. Store them securely, autofill them safely. Reduce reuse to near zero from a security perspective. Password managers are one of the single biggest upgrades most people can make. And yes, they're worth trusting more than your memory. Now, let's talk about the real security multiplier. Multi-factor authentication. MFA breaks the password-only attack chain. Even if an attacker steals your password, they still need a device, a code, something biometric, or a hardware key. This turns credential theft from instant access into almost useless. Most large breaches today succeed because MFA wasn't enabled, or because it was implemented poorly. When MFA is done right, it stops the vast majority of automated attacks cold. So if we know all this, why do breaches keep happening? Because organizations often optimize for convenience, legacy compatibility, minimal user complaints. Instead of threat reality, human behavior, and modern attack techniques, they enforce rules that look secure instead of systems that are secure. And attackers exploit that gap relentlessly. So let's make this practical. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. Stop thinking in terms of strong passwords. Start thinking in terms of strong systems. That means use a password manager. Use long passphrases. Never reuse passwords. Enable MFA everywhere possible and question outdated password rules. Security isn't about perfection. It's about reducing risk in ways that actually match how attackers operate. And the more you understand how attacks really work, the harder you become to compromise. Passwords aren't going away anytime soon. The way we think about them has to change, because attackers already adapted. It's time we did too. If you want more breakdowns like this, explaining cybersecurity without the hype, subscribe to the channel, because the best defense starts with understanding the threat.